Hey everyone, before we dive into today's story, if you're new here, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And if you enjoy this story, consider leaving a super thanks. Your support means everything. Now, let me tell you about the day I made my husband box up his own belongings to ship to his mistress. I stood in my warehouse, clipboard in hand, watching Marcus struggle with the packing tape. His hands were shaking. He'd been working here for 3 weeks now, and he still couldn't get the boxes sealed properly. The irony wasn't lost on me. This was the same man who'd laughed in my face 2 years ago when I told him I wanted to start an online business. The same man who'd called my dream cute and told me to focus on being a proper wife instead. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Jennifer, and I'm 53 years old. I've been married to Marcus for 28 years. We have 2 children, both grown now. David is 26 and works as an engineer in Seattle. Sarah is 23 and just finished her master's degree in Boston. For most of our marriage, I was exactly what Marcus wanted me to be: a stay-at-home wife, a perfect hostess for his business dinners, a woman who kept herself thin and attractive and never complained about anything. Marcus worked in pharmaceutical sales. He made good money, 6 figures, sometimes more when his bonuses came through. We lived in a nice house in the suburbs of Chicago, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a 2-car garage, the kind of house that looks perfect from the outside, the kind of neighborhood where everyone waves at each other but nobody really knows what's happening behind closed doors. I spent 25 years making that house perfect. 25 years cooking elaborate meals that Marcus barely touched because he was always on his phone during dinner. 25 years organizing his life, managing his dry cleaning, scheduling his dentist appointments, buying gifts for his mother's birthday because he always forgot. 25 years being invisible. The first time I mentioned wanting to do something for myself was in March of 2022. Sarah had just left for graduate school. David was already established in his career. The house felt empty. I felt empty. I was 51 years old, and I realized I had no idea who I was outside of being Marcus's wife and the kid's mother. I'd always loved crafts, knitting, sewing, making jewelry, small things. I'd been selling a few pieces at local craft fairs for years, just for fun, but I'd been researching online marketplaces, learning about e-commerce, watching YouTube videos about starting an online business. I spent 6 months learning everything I could about product photography, inventory management, social media marketing. I filled 3 notebooks with business plans and ideas. One evening over dinner, I told Marcus about my idea. I wanted to start an online store selling handmade items, not just my own crafts, but I wanted to partner with other local artisans, create a curated collection of unique pieces. I'd already contacted 15 local artists who were interested. I had mock-ups for the website. I'd calculated startup costs. I needed $15,000 to get started properly. Marcus looked up from his phone for the first time in 20 minutes. He smiled. Not a kind smile, a condescending smile that made my stomach turn. "That's cute, Jenny," he said. He was the only person who called me Jenny. I'd always hated it. "But come on, an online store? Do you know how many of those fail in the first year?" "I've done the research," I said quietly. "I have a solid business plan. I've been working on this for 6 months." "6 months?" He laughed, actually laughed. "Honey, I've been in sales for 30 years. I know business. This is a hobby, not a business. You're going to spend a bunch of money on a website and some craft supplies, and then what? You'll get bored in 3 months and I'll be out 15 grand. "I won't get bored," I said. My hands were clenched in my lap under the table. "This is something I'm passionate about." "Passion doesn't pay bills," Marcus said. He went back to his phone. "Look, if you want a hobby, that's fine, but I'm not investing in it. If you want to sell your little crafts at the church bazaar, go ahead. But a real business? That's not realistic for someone like you." Someone like you. Those words stuck with me. What did that mean? Someone my age, someone without a college degree, someone who'd spent their entire adult life supporting his career instead of building their own? I didn't bring it up again, not to Marcus, but I didn't give up on my dream either. I started saving money, quietly, carefully. I'd been managing our household accounts for years. Marcus never looked at them. He just transferred money into our joint account every month, and I handled everything else. Groceries, utilities, house maintenance, everything. He had no idea how much things actually cost. I started cutting corners in ways he'd never notice. I bought store brand instead of name brand. I found sales, used coupons, shopped at discount stores. I told Marcus we needed $200 a week for groceries. I spent $130. The rest went into a new account he didn't know about. An account at a different bank. An account in my name only. I did the same thing with the household budget. He gave me $600 a month for miscellaneous expenses. I spent $400. I canceled subscriptions he never used. I negotiated our cable bill down by $80 a month. I found a cheaper phone plan. Little by little, dollar by dollar, I saved. It took me 11 months to save $15,000, 11 months of carefully hiding money away, 11 months of building something without his support, without his permission. In February of 2023, I launched Artisan Collective online. I didn't tell Marcus, not at first. I worked on the business when he was at work. I took product photos in the spare bedroom. I packaged orders in the garage while he was at the gym. I kept everything separate from our regular life. I used my maiden name for the business registration, Jennifer Morrison, not Jennifer Caldwell. The first month, I made $800 in sales. Not much, but it was a start. The second month, $1,200. By the third month, I was making $2,000 a month. By the sixth month, I was making $5,000 a month. Not enough to live on, but it was growing. It was real. I reinvested everything back into the business. Better website, more inventory, paid advertising. I partnered with 23 local artisans by that point. We had jewelry, pottery, hand-knit items, wooden home goods, handmade soap, custom leather goods. Everything was unique. Everything was high quality. Customers loved it, and Marcus had no idea. I kept my business completely separate from our life. I got a P.O. box for business mail. I used a separate email address. I had a separate phone just for business calls. When packages needed to be shipped, I did it during the day while he was at work. When I needed to meet with artisans or do photo shoots, I told Marcus I was meeting friends for lunch or going to yoga. It was exhausting, living this double life, but it was also exhilarating. For the first time in 25 years, I had something that was mine. Something I'd built, something that had nothing to do with being Marcus's wife. In December of 2023, something changed. Marcus started working late, a lot. He'd always worked late occasionally, but this was different. 3 or 4 nights a week, he'd text me at 5 in the afternoon saying he had a client dinner or a late meeting. He'd roll in around 11 at night, smelling like expensive restaurants and wine. I didn't think much of it at first. It was the holiday season. His company always pushed hard in the fourth quarter, but then it continued into January, February, March. By April of 2024, Marcus was barely home. When he was home, he was different, distracted. He'd always been somewhat distant, but now he was completely checked out. He stopped asking about my day. Not that he'd asked much before, but now he didn't even go through the motions. He'd come home, eat whatever I'd made for dinner, go to his office and close the door. Some nights I'd hear him on the phone, laughing. A laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in years. I told myself it was work stress. I told myself he was just busy. I told myself a lot of things because the alternative was too painful to consider. My business continued to grow. By April of 2024, I was making $15,000 a month in revenue. After costs, I was netting about $8,000 a month in profit. I'd hired 2 part-time employees to help with packing and shipping. I'd rented a small warehouse space because I couldn't keep running the business out of our garage. Marcus still didn't know. Or if he noticed anything, he never mentioned it. I'd leave the house every morning around 9, telling him I was going to the gym or meeting friends. I'd spend the day at my warehouse managing inventory, photographing products, meeting with artisans, shipping orders. I'd be home by 4 to make dinner. Marcus never questioned where I'd been or what I'd done. The warehouse became my sanctuary. It was a small space, only about 800 square feet, but it was mine. I painted the walls a soft blue. I put up shelving units and organized everything perfectly. I created a small office area with a desk and a computer. I hung photos of the artisans I worked with on the walls. It was the first space in 30 years that belonged entirely to me. One of my employees was a young woman named Rachel. She was 24, working on her master's in business administration. She was smart, efficient, and she understood the vision I had for Artisan Collective. We'd talk for hours about expansion plans, about adding new product categories, about eventually opening a physical retail location. On May 15th, 2024, everything changed. Marcus had told me he had a late client dinner. This was the third one that week. I'd made chicken parmesan for dinner, his favorite, but he'd texted me at 4:30 saying not to wait for him. I ate alone, watching a cooking show on television, trying not to feel pathetic. Around 7 in the evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer it, but something made me pick up. "Is this Jennifer Caldwell?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes? Who is this?" "My name is Monica Richardson. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk about Marcus." My blood went cold. "What about Marcus?" There was a long pause. "He's my boss. I work in the same office, and I think he's having an affair." I sat down on the couch. My hands started shaking. "What makes you think that?" "I've seen him with a woman, several times. They go to lunch together. They leave together after work. I saw them at a restaurant last week and he kissed her. I'm so sorry. I debated whether to call you, but if it were me, I'd want to know." "Who is she?" My voice didn't sound like my own. "Her name is Stephanie Chen. She's a sales rep too. She joined the company about 8 months ago." 8 months, around the time Marcus started working late all the time. "Thank you for telling me," I managed to say. "I really am sorry," Monica said. "I know this is awful, but you deserve to know." After I hung up, I just sat there. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, staring at the wall, feeling something cold settle into my chest. I thought about all the late nights, all the client dinners, all the times Marcus had barely looked at me in the past 8 months. Everything suddenly made horrible sense. Part of me wanted to call him immediately, confront him, demand answers. But another part of me, the part that had learned to be strategic and patient while building my business, told me to wait, to be smart, to gather information before making any moves. I went to my computer and started researching. I looked up Stephanie Chen on social media. She was 32 years old, blonde, pretty. She had photos of herself at company events. In several of them, Marcus was in the background. In one photo from 3 months ago, she was wearing a necklace I'd never seen before. A gold heart pendant. It looked expensive. I went through our credit card statements, the ones Marcus thought I never looked at because I used our joint account for household expenses and he used his personal card for everything else. But I had access to the accounts. I'd always had access. I just never had a reason to look before. There they were. Charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel rooms, jewelry stores, a charge for $2,300 at Tiffany & Company on March 14th. Valentine's Day was in February. Our anniversary was in August. That necklace wasn't for me. I went back through 6 months of statements. I counted up every suspicious charge, every unexplained expense. He'd spent $38,000 on his affair, $38,000 on fancy dinners and hotel rooms and jewelry for another woman. Meanwhile, I'd been clipping coupons and buying store-brand cereal to save money for my business. Something inside me broke that night, not in a falling apart way, in a crystallizing way. I realized I'd spent 28 years making myself smaller so Marcus could feel bigger. I'd swallowed my dreams, my ambitions, my voice, all so he could have the perfect supportive wife. And this was how he repaid me. I didn't confront him that night. When he came home at 11:30, I was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. He undressed in the dark and got into bed beside me. He smelled like perfume. Not my perfume. A sweeter scent, younger. I lay there in the dark, my eyes open, planning. The next morning, I called a lawyer. Her name was Diane Porter, and she specialized in divorce. She came highly recommended from one of my artisan partners who'd gone through a divorce 2 years earlier. I need to protect myself, I told Diane in her office. It was a Friday afternoon. Marcus thought I was at book club. My husband is having an affair. I have evidence, but before I confront him, I need to know my rights. Diane was in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Tell me about your financial situation. I explained everything. Marcus's income, our joint accounts, the house, his retirement accounts, and then I told her about my business. He doesn't know about the business? Diane asked, raising her eyebrows. No, I started it with my own saved money. It's registered in my maiden name. All the income goes into a separate account he doesn't know about. How much have you made? Total revenue since I started? About $220,000. Profit after expenses is about $95,000. Most of that is still in the business account. I've been reinvesting everything to grow the business. Diane smiled. Jennifer, you've done something very smart, even if you didn't realize it at the time. In Illinois, business assets acquired during marriage are typically considered marital property. But since your husband has no knowledge of this business, has never contributed to it, and you built it entirely with your own resourcefulness, we have a strong argument that it's your separate property. Really? It's not guaranteed, but yes, especially since you can prove the seed money came from your careful management of household expenses, not from any joint investment. You essentially created this business from nothing. We spent 2 hours going through everything. Diane explained Illinois divorce law to me, how assets would be divided, what I could expect from alimony given the length of the marriage and the income disparity. She explained how his affair and financial infidelity would play in court. Before you confront him, I want you to gather more evidence, Diane said. Document everything, every late night, every suspicious charge. If you can get proof of the affair, even better. The more evidence we have, the stronger our position. That evening, while Marcus was in the shower, I looked at his phone. I knew the password. I'd known it for years. It was his college football team name followed by his birth year. Not exactly creative. What I found made me physically ill. Text messages with Stephanie going back 8 months, hundreds of them, love messages, sexual messages, photos I never wanted to see, plans for their future together. In one message from 2 weeks ago, Marcus had told Stephanie he was planning to ask me for a divorce once our daughter Sarah graduated from her master's program. He wanted to wait until after the graduation ceremony so it wouldn't spoil Sarah's achievement. How thoughtful of him. In another message from a month ago, Stephanie had sent him a photo of a house listing, a beautiful modern house in Lincoln Park. The asking price was $1.2 million. Marcus had replied, "Once I'm free from Jenny, we can start looking for real. This will be perfect for us." He was planning to leave me. He was planning to take our money, our assets, everything we'd built together, and start a new life with a woman 10 years younger than our own daughter. I took screenshots of everything, every message, every photo, every plan they'd made. I sent them all to my own email address, then deleted the sent messages from his phone. He never knew I'd been there. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered more evidence. I documented every late night, every suspicious charge, every lie he told me. I hired a private investigator who took photos of Marcus and Stephanie together, kissing outside restaurants, going into hotels. One particularly damning photo showed them going into her apartment building together at 10 at night on a Tuesday. He told me he had a late meeting with a hospital administrator. I also started preparing financially. I consulted with an accountant about how to protect my business assets. I moved the majority of my business profits into a separate account at a different bank. I documented every penny I'd invested in the business and where it had come from. I created a paper trail showing that my business was built entirely from my own resourcefulness and had nothing to do with marital assets. And I kept running my business. In fact, Artisan Collective had its best month ever in June of 2024. We made $23,000 in revenue. I hired a third part-time employee. I signed contracts with 5 new artisans. I was negotiating with a boutique hotel chain to supply guest room amenities using products from our artisan partners. My business was thriving while my marriage was dying. The irony was not lost on me. On June 28, 2024, I decided it was time. Sarah's graduation had been the previous weekend. It was a lovely ceremony. Marcus had been there, playing the proud father. We'd taken photos as a family. We'd gone to dinner afterwards. The whole time, I kept thinking about his text messages with Stephanie, about how he was just waiting for this event to be over so he could divorce me. Well, I wasn't going to wait for him to make that decision. I planned the confrontation carefully. I told Marcus we needed to talk. I asked him to come home early from work on Friday evening. I said it was important. I saw the flicker of panic in his eyes when I said it. He knew. On some level, he knew I knew. He came home at 6 that evening. I'd made dinner. Lasagna. His second favorite. I'd set the dining room table nicely. Candles. Wine. The works. I wanted this to look like a normal dinner until it wasn't. We sat down to eat. Marcus was nervous. I could tell by the way he kept touching his napkin, folding and unfolding it. "So," he said, trying to sound casual, "what did you want to talk about?" I took a sip of wine. "I know about Stephanie." The color drained from his face. "What?" "Stephanie Chen, your colleague, your girlfriend, the woman you've been having an affair with for the past 8 months. I know everything, Marcus." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Jenny, I can explain." "Don't call me Jenny. And no, you can't explain. There's no explanation that makes this okay." "It just happened," he said weakly. "I never meant for it to happen. It just happened." I felt something hot and sharp in my chest. "You accidentally spent $38,000 on another woman? You accidentally told her you were planning to divorce me? You accidentally shopped for houses with her?" His face went white. "How do you—" "I know everything." I pulled out my phone and showed him one of the screenshots. Him and Stephanie in a romantic text exchange. His face in the photo was clearly visible. He stared at the phone. Then he looked at me. For the first time in 28 years, I saw fear in his eyes. "How long have you known?" he asked quietly. "Long enough? Long enough to document everything. Long enough to consult with a lawyer. Long enough to prepare." "Prepare for what?" "For a divorce." I said it calmly, like I was discussing what to have for breakfast. "I'm divorcing you, Marcus." "Wait," he held up his hands. "Let's talk about this. Can't we work through this?" "Work through this?" I almost laughed. "You've been planning to leave me. You told Stephanie you were waiting until Sarah's graduation was over. Well, it's over now. So let's not pretend you want to work through anything." "I made a mistake," he said. Tears were actually forming in his eyes. "I was stupid. I was flattered by the attention. She made me feel young again. But I love you, Jenny. Jennifer, I love you." "No, you don't. You might have loved me once, but you don't anymore. And honestly, Marcus, I'm not sure I love you either. I'm not even sure I like you." That hurt him. I could see it. "Good. What do you want?" he asked. His voice had changed, less pleading, more calculating. This was Marcus the salesman now, ready to negotiate. "I want a fair divorce. I want half of everything. The house, your retirement account, savings, investments, everything we built together in 28 years of marriage." That's fine, that's fair," he was nodding. "We can work that out. And I want you to know something else." I took another sip of wine. "While you were building a relationship with Stephanie, I was building something too." "What are you talking about?" "Remember 2 years ago when I told you I wanted to start an online business? When you laughed at me and told me it was a cute hobby but not realistic for someone like me?" He had the grace to look ashamed. "I remember. I did it anyway. I saved money from the household budget. I started a business. It's called Artisan Collective. We sell handmade goods from local artisans, and we're quite successful." "You started a business?" He looked confused. "How? When?" "I started it 2 years ago, right after you dismissed my dream. I've been running it this entire time. While you were lying to me about where you were and who you were with, I was building something real. Something that's mine." "How much are you making?" The salesman was definitely out now. He was calculating numbers. "Enough. More than enough, actually. We had $23,000 in revenue last month alone." His eyes widened. $23,000 from crafts? From a carefully curated collection of high-quality artisan goods, yes. Turns out someone like me is pretty good at business after all. That's marital property, he said quickly. If you started it during our marriage, I'm entitled to half. I smiled. Actually, my lawyer isn't so sure about that. See, I built this business entirely on my own, without any contribution from you. Not financial, not labor, not even emotional support. In fact, you actively discouraged me. I built it from money I saved through careful household management, money I created out of thin air through smart shopping and budgeting. My lawyer thinks we have a very strong argument that Artisan Collective is my separate property. Marcus's face was turning red. Your lawyer? You've already got a lawyer? Of course I do. I told you I've been preparing. Did you think I'd just roll over and let you take everything? Did you think I'd be the same passive woman you've been ignoring for 28 years? This isn't fair, he said. The anger was showing now. I've supported you for our entire marriage. You haven't worked in 28 years. Everything we have is because of me. I haven't worked? My voice was ice. I've worked every single day of our marriage. I've cooked, cleaned, managed our household, raised our children, organized your life, entertained your colleagues. I've done all of that while you got to focus on your career. And the moment I tried to build something for myself, you mocked me. You told me I wasn't capable. Well, look who's capable now. We stared at each other across the table. The lasagna was getting cold. I'm moving out, I said. Actually, you're moving out. I'm staying in the house. My lawyer will send you the divorce papers next week. I suggest you get your own lawyer. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, Marcus. Maybe Stephanie has room for you in her apartment. Although I should warn you, her lease is up in 2 months, and I suspect she's been expecting to move into that house in Lincoln Park with you, the one that costs $1.2 million. Hope you've been saving up. He slumped in his chair. The fight had gone out of him. How did this happen? You made it happen. You chose Stephanie over me. You chose lies over honesty. You chose to throw away 28 years for a younger woman and the fantasy of a different life. So now you get to live with those choices. Marcus left that night. He packed a bag and went to stay at a hotel. I later found out he tried to stay with Stephanie, but she refused. Apparently, the fantasy of being with Marcus was different from the reality of him showing up at her door with a suitcase, asking to move in. Over the next few weeks, the divorce proceedings began. Marcus hired a lawyer who tried to argue that my business was marital property and Marcus was entitled to half, but Diane was sharper. She presented evidence showing that I'd built the business entirely from my own resourcefulness, that Marcus had actively discouraged me, that he'd had no involvement whatsoever. The judge listened to both sides carefully, and then she ruled that Artisan Collective was my separate property. Marcus was entitled to nothing from my business. Marcus was furious, but there was nothing he could do about it. The rest of the divorce settlement was fairly standard for Illinois. We split the house equity 50-50. We split his retirement accounts 50-50. We split our savings 50-50. I got alimony for 10 years because of the length of the marriage and the income disparity. But there was one more twist I hadn't seen coming. In September of 2024, 3 months after I'd confronted Marcus, his company found out about his affair with Stephanie. Not from me. Someone else at the office reported it. The company had a strict policy against workplace relationships. Marcus and Stephanie were both given a choice. One of them could resign, or they could both be fired. After what I'm sure was a very uncomfortable conversation, Stephanie resigned. Marcus stayed at his position, but the damage to his reputation was done. Then, in October, something even more interesting happened. Marcus's sales numbers had been declining, maybe because he'd been distracted by his affair, maybe because losing his marriage and going through a divorce was affecting his performance. Whatever the reason, his numbers were down 23% from the previous year. In November, he was put on a performance improvement plan. By January of 2025, Marcus was let go from the pharmaceutical company he'd worked at for 18 years. The company was downsizing, they said. They needed to cut costs. Marcus, with his declining numbers and recent HR issues, was an easy target. Suddenly, Marcus was 55 years old, unemployed, and facing a difficult job market. He tried to find another sales position at the same level. But pharmaceutical sales is a small world. Word had gotten around about his affair, his policy violation, his performance issues. Companies weren't interested. He ended up taking a position at a much smaller company for significantly less money. His new salary was $65,000 a year, less than half of what he'd been making, which meant the alimony he was paying me was now a much larger percentage of his income. I didn't take pleasure in his misfortune, not exactly, but I didn't feel sorry for him either. Meanwhile, Artisan Collective continued to grow. By December of 2024, we were making $30,000 a month in revenue. I hired 2 more full-time employees. We moved to a bigger warehouse space. I was negotiating contracts with 3 boutique hotel chains and a high-end spa company. In February of 2025, something happened that brought everything full circle. Marcus called me. We hadn't spoken directly since the divorce was finalized in December. Everything had been going through our lawyers. "I need to ask you something," he said. He sounded tired, defeated. "What is it?" "I know this is going to sound crazy, but do you have any positions available at your company?" I was silent for a long moment. "You want to work for me?" "I need a job. The market is terrible right now. I've applied to 37 positions and I've had 2 interviews. Both went nowhere. I'm running through my savings. I need something steady, even if it's temporary." "Marcus, I run an online store that sells handmade crafts, the business you called a cute hobby. The business you said wasn't realistic for someone like me. And now you want to work there. I know how it sounds, but I'm desperate. Do you have anything? Anything at all?" I thought about it. I thought about how satisfying it would be to say no, to tell him he'd made his bed and now he could lie in it, to throw his own words back at him about passion not paying bills. But I also thought about how satisfying it would be to say yes, to have him work in my warehouse, to have him see every day what I'd built, to have him acknowledge through his presence that I'd succeeded in something he'd believed I would fail at. "I might have something," I said slowly. "We need someone in the warehouse, packing boxes, managing inventory, basic shipping tasks. It's 10 hours a week to start, $15 an hour. That's $150 a week." He paused. "That's not much. It's what I can offer. Take it or leave it." There was a long silence on the phone. I could almost hear him swallowing his pride. "I'll take it," he said quietly. "You start Monday at 9 in the morning. The address is 847 North Industrial Drive, Unit 12. Don't be late." "Thank you, Jennifer." "Don't thank me yet." The following Monday, Marcus showed up at my warehouse. He looked older than I remembered, smaller. He was wearing jeans and an old t-shirt. I was used to seeing him in expensive suits. This version of Marcus looked diminished. I introduced him to my other employees. Rachel, who I'd promoted to operations manager. 2 other part-time employees, both college students. They were all younger than Marcus. They were all people I'd hired and trained. People who respected me and the business I'd built. "Marcus will be helping in the warehouse," I told them. "Rachel, can you show him how we do the packing and shipping?" "Sure thing, boss," Rachel said cheerfully. She turned to Marcus. "Come on, I'll show you the system." I watched Marcus follow Rachel to the packing station. She showed him how to read the order forms, how to pack items carefully with bubble wrap, how to print shipping labels, how to seal boxes properly with tape. Basic tasks, tasks that required no special skills, tasks that he'd once thought were beneath him. He struggled at first. He couldn't get the tape to stick properly. He packed items too loosely and I had to show him how to do it again. He printed the wrong labels twice, but he kept trying. He kept working. At the end of his first shift, I called him into my small office. "You did okay today," I said. "A few mistakes, but everyone makes mistakes when they're learning. How did it feel?" He looked at me. Really looked at me. "Humbling," he said finally. "Good. Humbling is good sometimes. Jennifer, I want to apologize for everything, for dismissing your dream, for the affair, for not seeing what an incredible person you are. I was a fool." "Yes, you were. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" I thought about it. Maybe someday, but not yet. The wounds are still too fresh. Right now, this is just a business relationship. You're an employee. I'm your boss. Let's keep it professional. Fair enough, he said quietly. Marcus worked at my warehouse through February, through March, through April. I increased his hours to 15 per week in March, then 20 in April. Not because I felt sorry for him, but because the business was growing and we needed the help. He was actually a decent employee once he learned the systems. He showed up on time, he followed instructions. He didn't complain, but I could see it eating at him. Every time he had to ask Rachel for guidance, every time he packed a box of the cute crafts he'd once dismissed, every time he saw me meeting with buyers or negotiating contracts or managing the business he'd told me I couldn't handle. The other employees didn't know Marcus was my ex-husband at first, but eventually Rachel figured it out. She was too smart not to notice the tension between us. One day in late April, she asked me about it directly. "He's your ex-husband, isn't he?" I looked up from my computer. "Yes." "The one who told you that you couldn't run a successful business?" "That's the one." Rachel was quiet for a moment, then she smiled. "That must feel amazing." "It does," I admitted. "Some days more than others." In May of 2025, Artisan Collective reached a milestone. We hit $40,000 in monthly revenue. We'd partnered with 47 local artisans. We'd secured contracts with 5 boutique hotel chains and 3 high-end spas. We were featured in Chicago Magazine as one of the top emerging businesses in the city. The day the magazine article came out, I brought a copy to the warehouse. I hung it on the wall in the break room where everyone could see it. There was a photo of me standing in front of product displays, looking confident and professional. The headline read, "From Hobby to Empire, How Jennifer Morrison Built a Thriving Artisan Business." Marcus saw it when he came in for his shift. He stood in front of that article for a long time, just staring at it. I watched him from my office. I saw his shoulders slump. I saw him reach up and touch the photo just briefly. Then he turned and went to the packing station and started his work. I felt something then. Not quite pity, not quite satisfaction, something in between. He'd been wrong about me. So completely, utterly wrong. And now he had to live with that knowledge every day. That evening, after everyone else had gone home, Marcus knocked on my office door. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" he asked. "Sure, sit down." He sat in the chair across from my desk. He looked tired, older than his 55 years. "I read the article," he said. "It's really impressive what you've built here." "Thank you. I was wrong about everything, about you, about what you were capable of. I see that now." "I know you were wrong, Marcus. I knew it 2 years ago when you dismissed my dream. I didn't need your validation then, and I don't need it now." "I know, but I need to say it anyway. You're successful. You're talented. You're a real businesswoman. Everything I said you weren't. Why are you telling me this?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because I need you to know that I see it now. I see you now. Really see you. For maybe the first time in our entire marriage." "It's a bit late for that, don't you think?" "I know. I know it's too late for us, but it's not too late for me to acknowledge the truth. You're remarkable, Jennifer. You always were. I was just too blind and too arrogant to see it." I looked at him across my desk. This man I'd spent 28 years with. This man who'd shared my bed, my home, my life. And I realized I felt nothing for him. Not love, not hate, not even the sharp satisfaction of revenge. Just a kind of distant neutrality. "Thank you for saying that," I said finally. "It doesn't change anything, but I appreciate hearing it." "I don't expect it to change anything. I just needed you to know." After he left, I sat at my desk for a long time, looking around my office. My small office in my warehouse, the space I'd created from nothing, the business I'd built when everyone, especially Marcus, told me I couldn't. I thought about the Jennifer I'd been 2 years ago. Invisible, unvalued, scared to dream too big because someone might laugh at her. And I thought about the Jennifer I was now, confident, successful, free. The revenge, I realized, wasn't in having Marcus work in my warehouse. It wasn't in him seeing what I'd built. The revenge was in becoming someone who didn't need revenge at all. The revenge was in thriving. In August, Marcus put in his notice. He'd been offered a job at a medical supply company. The pay was better than what I was giving him, $45,000 a year. It was a good opportunity for him. "I'm happy for you," I told him when he gave me the news, and I meant it. "Thank you, and thank you for giving me work when I needed it. I know it wasn't easy to hire me. I know you didn't owe me anything. You were a good employee, Marcus. I'm sorry to lose you, actually. You'll be hard to replace." "Really?" He looked surprised. "Really? You became reliable, competent, pleasant to work with. That's not easy to find." On his last day, the warehouse team threw him a small goodbye party. They'd grown fond of him. He'd become Uncle Marcus to the younger employees, always willing to help or give advice. Before he left, he stopped by my office one last time. "I'm not going to make this long," he said, "but I want to thank you again. Working here changed me, made me better, made me see things differently. I'm glad. And I want you to know something. What you've built here, it's extraordinary. Not just the business, but the culture, the way you treat your employees, the way you support your artisan partners. You've created something really special. Thank you, Marcus. I'll never forgive myself for how I treated you, for the things I said, the things I did. But I'm grateful that you gave me the chance to see what I'd missed, to see who you really are. We both needed time to become who we're supposed to be. You're getting there. Keep working on it." He nodded. "I will. Goodbye, Jennifer." "Goodbye, Marcus." After he left, I sat in my office feeling oddly nostalgic, not for the marriage, not for the man he'd been, but for this strange chapter where my ex-husband had worked in my warehouse, learning humility one packed box at a time. It was over now. That chapter was closed. In September of 2025, Artisan Collective hit a new milestone. We crossed $1 million in annual revenue. $1 million from a business that started with $15,000 saved from grocery money, from a business that was supposed to be just a cute hobby. I threw a party for the whole company, employees, artisan partners, everyone who'd been part of the journey. We rented a rooftop space overlooking the Chicago skyline. There was champagne and catered food and a DJ. I gave a speech. I talked about dreams and determination. I talked about believing in yourself even when others don't. I talked about the importance of taking risks and building community. I didn't mention Marcus by name, but everyone who knew the story understood what I was really talking about. Standing on that rooftop, looking out at the city lights, surrounded by people I respected and who respected me, I felt complete, vindicated, successful, happy. The revenge was complete, but it wasn't the revenge I'd originally imagined. It wasn't about making Marcus suffer or humiliating him or taking everything from him. The revenge was simpler and more profound than that. The revenge was in becoming everything he'd told me I couldn't be. The revenge was in building $1 million business from $15,000 and sheer determination. The revenge was in proving that someone like me, someone he'd dismissed and underestimated, was capable of extraordinary things. The revenge was in being happy, genuinely, completely happy without him. That was the ultimate revenge. Not his downfall, but my rise. Today, Artisan Collective continues to grow. We're on track to hit $1.5 million in revenue this year. We're expanding to a second retail location. We're launching a wholesale division. We're partnering with major online marketplaces to reach a national audience. I'm 56 years old now. I have a business I love, employees I respect, artisan partners I'm proud to work with. I have a beautiful home that's all mine. I have friendships and hobbies and a life that's full and meaningful. Marcus is doing fine, from what I hear. He's still with Linda, the teacher he'd been dating. He's working at the medical supply company and doing well. His salary has increased. He's rebuilt his life, smaller and humbler than before, but maybe more authentic. We don't talk. We're cordial at family events, but nothing more. That's how it should be. We're not enemies, but we're not friends. We're just two people who used to be married, who took very different paths after the marriage ended. Sometimes I think about that night 2 years ago when I confronted him, when I told him I knew about the affair, when I told him I was divorcing him, when I revealed that I'd built a successful business he knew nothing about. The look on his face, the shock, the disbelief, the slow, dawning realization that he'd completely misjudged me. That moment was sweet. I won't pretend it wasn't. But sweeter than that moment was every moment that came after. Every sale, every new partnership, every expansion, every success, building something beautiful and meaningful and profitable from nothing. Proving to myself that I could do it. That's what I want you to take away from this story. It's not about revenge, not really. It's about believing in yourself. It's about pursuing your dreams even when people tell you they're unrealistic. It's about being willing to be underestimated, because being underestimated means people won't see you coming. Marcus underestimated me. He thought I'd stay small because that's what was comfortable for him. He thought I'd accept his dismissal of my dreams. He thought I'd always be the supporting character in his story. He was wrong. I wasn't the supporting character. I was the hero of my own story. I just needed to realize it. So if someone in your life is telling you that your dreams are unrealistic, that your ambitions are too big, that you should stay small and safe and comfortable, remember my story. Remember that the person trying to keep you small is usually doing it because your growth threatens them. Don't let them. Don't stay small for anyone. Dream big. Work hard. Build something meaningful. Prove them wrong. Prove yourself right. And if you end up with your ex-husband working in your warehouse, packing the products from the business he said would fail, well, that's just a bonus. Thanks for reading my story. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment and let me know where you're from, and if you've ever had someone underestimate you like this. And if you really love this story and want to support the channel, consider leaving a super thanks. Your support helps me keep bringing you these stories. Remember, the best revenge isn't destruction. It's success. It's happiness. It's becoming everything they said you couldn't be. Go build your empire. Someone like you absolutely can do it.